Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Keeps Hot Takes. And on today's show, I have my guy Matthew Owens join the show today. Matthew, how you doing today, bro?
I am well. Thank you for having me again. It's a lot of fun to come on with you.
Yes, sir. So on today's show, we're going to react to the schedule release. It was a lot of great games on the schedule, so we're going to break it down on today's show. So we're going to start out by talking about which Thursday night games we're going to be looking forward to this year. And Thursday night football has moved to Prime Video this year, and Al Michaels and Kurt Herbstreit are going to be calling the games for Prime Video. So some of the Thursday night games that I'm looking forward to. The first one is going to be a barn burner. The Chargers at Kansas City. The last time they won Thursday Night Football, that was a great game. Another one was Week 3. The Steelers and the Browns. I think that's going to be a great one because I think the AFC North. I think they're going to beat each other up. That's going to be a loaded division. Hopefully, Deshaun Watson is eligible. We haven't heard yet, but I'm hoping so because that's going to be a really great game. Then we got Week 4, Miami traveling to Cincinnati. I think that could be an offensive shootout. Both teams have a great receiving core. Those are just a few I have. What are some Thursday night games you're looking forward to, bro?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, Amazon Prime taking over Thursday Night Football, which is uh, an enormous deal for the National Football League, taking a full leap into streaming. And obviously, Amazon paid an enormous amount of money
Ooh,
to
yes.
get this deal. Obviously, they paid an enormous amount of money to Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, who are two of the best in the broadcasting business. Obviously, Al Michaels is probably the greatest of all time.
Sure.
Kirk Herbstreit has been a magnificent college football analyst on ESPN for decades now, but we've seen him on the NFL side a couple of times now with the Monday night doubleheaders, and he knows his stuff. So can't wait to listen to that crew. Also, I'm always a little biased this time of year to the Thursday night schedule because I do the Thursday night games on
Sure.
USRN. So, I mean, I can sit through here and I can give you an intriguing storyline for just about every single one of these games, even Jaguars and Jets, who I know a lot of people look at that game and say, well, what's the point of watching it? But, that's the number one pick and the number two pick
For sure.
from two drafts ago now. I do wish it was a little earlier in the season because most people would assume they're probably going to be out of any real playoff hunt come week 16. So if they would have put that maybe week 5, 6, 7 ish, but I'm not going to nitpick that. Uh, but I love this schedule. You mentioned those handful of games. I'm looking at week 7, the Saints and the Cardinals in Arizona. That first off, that's just a really good game to begin with. But secondly, that's more than likely when DeAndre Hopkins is going to come
Yep.
back from his 6-game suspension, unless there's some other issue that keeps him out. But if there's not, that should be his first game back. The Saints have only gotten better in the offseason. They have given Jameis Winston every possible weapon that he could have asked for. Obviously, Michael Thomas, when he's healthy, is legit one of the best receivers in the league. They drafted Chris Olave out of Ohio State, who is electrifying, and they just got Jarvis Landry a couple of weeks ago. So there's no more excuses for Jameis Winston, really. The Saints have a really good defense. They could be a real contender, and them going to Arizona is a terrific game. Then the very next week, the team that New Orleans is going to try to overtake in the South, that's, of course, Tampa Bay. We know Tom Brady retired. Then he come back. They're going to be at home to Baltimore. First
Ooh.
time Brady and Lamar Jackson square off. I think that's right, at least. That should be a dynamic game. And there's a couple more towards the latter half of the schedule that I look at and say that could have a lot of impact on the playoffs and the seeding. Buffalo, New England. We know how big those two games were last year. That's week 13. Very next week, you've got the Raiders at the Rams. We know what the Rams did last year. Raiders made the playoffs, came this close to at least sending their wild card game to overtime. They've got Devontae Adams now. What's the status of those two teams going into week 14? I think it's going to be really interesting to look at. And kind of an underrated game, if you will, I think, on this schedule could be Atlanta and Carolina.
Mm.
You never know what happens in an NFL season. And I know it looks like on paper that both of those teams are probably going to be pretty bad. But, Atlanta has a lot of weapons on offense. They've got to figure out the quarterback position, obviously.
For sure.
Maybe by the time we get to that game in early November, Desmond Ridder, the rookie out of Cincinnati, may be their quarterback. Whoever it is, though, will have plenty of options. Maybe that's a game for Atlanta to try to stay in the playoff hunt against a team in Carolina, which is obviously a division rival. Panthers are interesting as well. They've got things to figure out on the offensive end. Can Christian McCaffrey stay healthy? If he is, by the time we get to week 10, maybe that's one of the more under the radar Thursday night games. It could be good that not a lot of people are talking about.
For sure, and I look at the next week. We got Tennessee going to Green Bay. That could, have some implications in that one. And the last Thursday night game, Cowboys and Titans. Both of those teams could be vying for playoff spots in both of their conferences. So that could be a huge one at the end of December. So, like you said, overall, a great Thursday night schedule. Now we're going to talk about Sunday night football. And it's no better way to start off. Well, I guess we consider the Thursday night opener. I guess they consider that a Sunday night football game. We got Buffalo going to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. That's going to be a really good game. Two explosive offenses, and both of them have really good defenses. So this could potentially be a Super Bowl matchup at the end of the season at the stadium behind me, State Farm Stadium. So that's a good one. Then we get to Bucks visiting Dallas, taking on my Cowboys. Looking forward to us hopefully finally beating Tom Brady, because ever since I've been born, we've never beaten Tom Brady. So he's 6-0 against us. Maybe the seventh time is our lucky break, hopefully. Then I look at week 3. You got the 49ers going to the Broncos. I think that could be a really intriguing game. Both teams have great defenses, so that could be a low-scoring defensive struggle. Then I look at the next week. I think it's probably going to be one of their better games. The Chiefs visiting the Bucks. And then you got the Bengals and Ravens. That could be an early game that could potentially have some divisional implications later on in the season. Then I'll move down to the end of October. You got Packers and Bills. That's going to be a great one. Then the following week, you got Titans at Chiefs. Let me get one more in here. And I think the Broncos and Chiefs, December 11th, is going to be an intriguing one. Because I had it here. This is crazy. Let me find it. The Broncos haven't beat the Chiefs since September 17th of 2015. They've lost to the Chiefs 12 straight times. And if you look at their quarterbacks that they've had since 2015, most of them probably couldn't start in the UFL. So they've had 11 starting quarterbacks since 2015, and that's probably been the reason why they haven't been very good. So now they have a quarterback in Russell Wilson. And I think that was really the thing that they were missing with all their offensive weapons. Kansas City, they lost Tyreek Hill. We'll see how that impacts them. That game at the beginning of December, that could have some divisional implications because I think those teams are going to beat up on each other. And we're going to have some offensive shootouts in that division because all 4 teams in that division have great quarterbacks and great offenses. So the Sunday night slate, which Mike Tirico is going to take over for Al Michaels with Chris Collinsworth, and they're going to do a great job. I think they did the Buffalo and New Orleans game last year, if I'm not mistaken, and Mike Tirico, he did a great job. So looking forward to them calling the Sunday night game. So we have a loaded Sunday night schedule as well as a Thursday night. So what are some some Sunday night games you're looking forward to?
Well, yeah, like you, can't wait to hear Mike Tirico, who is one of the absolute best in the business as of now. He's also one of the most versatile. You're talking about a guy that can do college football, professional football. And when he was at ESPN, he did NBA, he did college basketball, he even did Grand Slam tennis. He can do everything. He's hosting the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness on NBC, the Indianapolis 500. He can do everything. So can't wait to hear him as he finally gets to slide into the Sunday night seat. I love this time of year when we're talking about the schedule and the schedule release and what network gets what games. I don't know if many people, the casual fans, know everything that goes into these networks trying to line their schedule up to be the best it could be. It's not by any coincidence that the Sunday night slate is this loaded. I mean, they've got great game after great game. You mentioned a few. Green Bay and Buffalo as well is a phenomenal game. Tennessee and Kansas City, two of the best in the AFC, Chargers, 49ers, Green Bay and Philadelphia, New England and Vegas, Tampa and Arizona on Christmas, the Battle of LA between the Rams, Chargers. This is not a coincidence that this is a loaded schedule. NBC Sunday Night Football has been the highest rated TV show for over a decade. They get the ratings, they pay the money to have the broadcast rights to it. They want these big games, and they get them each and every year. I guess what I was most surprised about is that they ended up with Kansas City and Tampa Bay. I had a feeling that CBS might protect that, like they did a couple of years ago, the year they met in the Super Bowl. I figured that CBS might protect that with a game being in Tampa Bay. They didn't, so NBC scoops it up. It's interesting. There are 61 currently scheduled primetime or specialty games on the NFL schedule, specialty games being Thanksgiving, Christmas, the international games, so on. So there are 61 primetime or specialty games on the schedule as we speak. A few more will be added, but as of now, 61. Last week on Twitter, I ranked the 61 games, from best to worst. And I said, in my personal opinion, the best of those 61 games is Kansas City and Tampa Bay. Think about what NBC is getting with this game. They're getting Brady and Mahomes again. Who knows if it might be the last time those two ever play each other. They're getting a team that won the Super Bowl 3 years ago against a team that won it 2 years ago. They're getting all of these great superstars, even with Tyreek Hill leaving. They're getting not only Brady and Mahomes, but they're getting Mike Evans, and they're getting Chris Godwin, and they're getting Travis Kelce, and they're getting Tyrann. Well, I guess they're not getting Tyrann Mathieu anymore, are they? But they're getting these great superstars. You're just going to get a lot of eyes on that game, and for good reason. And obviously they get Dallas and Philadelphia again this year. That one of the best rivalries in the game. That used to be, you could write it down that NBC would have one of the Cowboys and Eagles games, but they didn't have it last year. They get it back this year. They're looking forward to that, especially with how much better Philadelphia has gotten in the offseason. And I mentioned earlier, Packers and Bills. That's going to be an amazing atmosphere in Buffalo that night when Aaron Rodgers and the Packers come. Those two don't play often, obviously. That's going to be an amazing atmosphere in Buffalo that night. And then you're going to turn around the very next week and you're going to have a really amazing atmosphere in Kansas City when the Chiefs host the Titans. And remember what the Titans did to the Chiefs last year in Nashville. Titans beat them, I think it was 27-3. They spanked them. So the Kansas City fans are going to come on, and they're going to be 110%. And the Chief players are going to remember that as well. So that's going to be a really good game. And I'm intrigued by Colts and Cowboys too. The Colts could go a lot of different ways this year. They've got Matt Ryan. They've got Jonathan Taylor, who I thought should have been the MVP of the league last year, or at least should have received a top 3 vote in that. The Colts could be very intriguing. And who knows where they're at when we get to that. That's the first Sunday night game in December. Yes. Who knows where they're at record-wise when they go into that game. And then, Dallas is always a big TV draw. What are they going to be like, though, in the division and in the wild card standings when we get to that point? Like I just said, Philadelphia got a lot better in the offseason. We could have a real fight at the top of the East with Philadelphia and Dallas, and you're going to see on Sunday night, Philadelphia against Green Bay on November 27th, and then the very next week, Dallas hosting Indy.
Yes, and you speaking of that game, the last time we played the Colts, they beat us 28-0.
Yeah.
So hopefully our players that are still on the team from that game remember that. And another one that you didn't mention, right before Thanksgiving, the Bengals going to the Steelers. They swept the Steelers last year. The Bengals ran through that division last year. So I think they're going to be even better in year 2 with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And I think they're going to be a handful to deal with. So, do the Steelers get some payback after getting dominated by their rival, who they pretty much own since I've been born? But last year, the Bengals, Joe Burrow, he's finally healthy, and they ran through the AFC pretty much. So,
And
like
it'll
you
be
said,
interesting to see too. Pittsburgh has 2 games on Sunday night. One is late October, and then the game that you just mentioned, kind of middle of November, the week before Thanksgiving. Where are the Steelers at those 2 games, and where are they at quarterback? Are they starting Mitchell Trubisky? Are they starting Kenny Pickett? That's going to be super intriguing to see for both of those games. What, those 2 games are 5 weeks apart? Yeah, 5 weeks apart.
just
So
about. Yep.
so who's their quarterback, and are they in a playoff hunt when they get to those 2 games? You would imagine they would still be against the Dolphins. I mean, they would have to have just a horrible start to be completely out of it by the time you get to that game. So, yeah, that's interesting too.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the Steelers and Dolphins because that's going to be kind of a revenge game for Brian Flores. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Then we'll end up with the Monday night slate where Joe Buck and Troy Aikman left Fox for ESPN, and now ESPN finally has a solid duo calling their Monday night games. I know that's fans have been questioning, their Monday night crew for the last couple of years, and people haven't been a big fan of who they've had calling the games. So now they probably have two of the arguably the best in the NFL calling their games. So that's going to be really intriguing to watch that duo. I know you're excited about that. You're a big Joe Buck fan.
The biggest.
For sure. Week 1, they start off with a bang. They get a big game, potentially. Russell Wilson going back to Seattle. How did the fans treat him? I don't blame him for wanting to leave. They couldn't protect him, and he was getting beat up. And
Hold up. They better treat him like a freaking superstar. Seriously, what had Seattle done before Russell Wilson had gotten there? They had gotten to 1 Super Bowl, which they lost to Pittsburgh, and Super Bowl 40. You can root for the Seahawks to win, but just like when Tom returned to New England last year, Seattle fans better not be booing Russell Wilson.
We'll have to see.
That would be really, that would just be disappointing.
Yeah, but I agree with you because they were really awful before him for a couple years till he got there. So we'll have to see. Then the following week, they get a doubleheader. First, you got Tennessee visiting Buffalo. That was a great game last year when they played. And then at 8:30 on ABC, you got Vikings visiting the Eagles. So 2 great games in week 2. And then I'm going to skip down to October. The start of October, we got the Rams visiting San Francisco. That's always a great matchup. Those 2 teams don't like each other. Then the following 2 weeks, you get 2 AFC West matchups. First, you get the Raiders visiting Kansas City. That's going to be a shootout. And then you got the Broncos visiting the Chargers. That's going to be awesome to see. Russell Wilson versus Justin Herbert. I can't wait for that. And then to close out October, Bengals and Browns. That's going to be the Battle of Ohio. I can't wait for that. I think Ravens and Saints, I think that's going to be an intriguing matchup to start November. I think 49ers and Cardinals, that's in New Mexico, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Mexico City.
Yeah, Mexico. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And then I think one of the other games that has my eye is Saints at Bucks at the beginning of December. Brady hasn't been able to beat the Saints. Will he finally beat the Saints this year? As you stated earlier, they really got better on defense, and Jameis Winston has all the weapons he needs on offense to be successful. So I think those 2 are going to be right there battling it out for the NFC South. Excuse me. And then we got 3 great games to end the Monday night slate. That you get Rams at Packers right before Christmas, so it's probably going to be negative 20 in Green Bay. See how the Rams like that cold weather. Then you got Chargers at Colts. That could have some wild card implications because of how loaded the AFC is going to be. And good gracious, their last game. Woo-wee. I can't wait to watch this. Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow. Buffalo visiting the Bengals. So good gracious. All 3 networks are going to have an awesome slate. And the Monday night slate is loaded. So what games are you looking forward to on the Monday night slate?
I can tell you I'm not looking forward to Chicago and New England. What a horrible game that is. Oh, my gosh. I mean, Washington and Philadelphia is not going to be the best game either, but at least it has a backstory, with Carson Wentz returning to Philadelphia and all.
Oh, they're going to boo him out the stadium.
Chicago and New England, though. Chicago and New England, I mean, what the world? Anyway, this is a terrific Monday night schedule. You're right. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, they're the longest active duo on TV in the National Football League. They're going to bring a new dynamic to Monday Night Football. I'm excited for it on so many levels, and I'm excited for this schedule too. Goodness, Denver and Seattle kind of writes itself. I don't know how good of a game it'll be because Seattle's
who's going to be playing quarterback for them? I think that's the biggest question.
Seattle's just not good. Let's just put it that way. But it'll be a spectacle of a game, and maybe the crowd keeps them in it longer than we expect them to. You mentioned those two AFC West games in October, back-to-back, Vegas, Kansas City, Denver, LA. That's a tremendous back-to-back slate there featuring all four of the AFC West teams. Week before that is Rams 49ers, rematch of the NFC Championship game. I feel like that rivalry doesn't get talked about enough
at all.
But that's a really good game. You mentioned Baltimore and New Orleans. I feel like that's a game that's not getting enough respect. Again, I just think the Saints are going to be pretty darn good, especially if Jameis can limit those turnovers. I mean, Jameis doesn't have to be perfect this year for the Saints to be good. He just has to do his job and not turn the ball over. And if he does that, both of those games that the Saints have at home to Baltimore and then at Tampa Bay are just going to be enormously intriguing games. And then you mentioned the way they finished. Good Lord, Rams, Packers, and then 2 weeks later, Bills, Bengals. Bengals is I just want to sit back a minute. Could you imagine anyone saying to you 8, 10, 12 years ago that you would be really looking forward to a Bills-Bengals game?
I don't.
I mean, that just goes to show what kind of turnover there is in the league, especially the AFC. That's a great finish. And also backing up a bit, week 3, Dallas and New York. Both of those games between the Cowboys and Giants are quote-unquote primetime games this year. This one on Monday night, then they're playing on Thanksgiving as well. That'll be an early look to see how much better the Giants are. They did a great job in the draft. Those 2 first-round picks, they did exactly what they needed to. Protect Daniel Jones with Evan Neal and then get someone that can wreck a game defensively like Kayvon Thibodeau. An early look and see if the Giants are better and if they are, how much. And that place will be rocking with it being at home against Dallas. So really looking forward to this Monday night slate.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the Giants offense improves under Brian Daboll because it's been god-awful for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. All right, so next we're going to talk about which revenge games we're most excited about. So a few that I had wrote down, Bucks and Cowboys. The Cowboys were so close to upsetting the Bucks last year. The defending Super Bowl champs going into the year. Another one I think is going to be really good to start the season, Raiders at Chargers, because if the Chargers don't call a timeout, the Raiders are going to – it's basically going to be a time. Both of them going to get the wild card spots. But no, the Chargers want to take a timeout, and then the Raiders went ahead and kicked the game-winning field goal, and they got to go to the playoffs, and the Chargers barely missed it. So I think that's going to be a great one. We already talked about Broncos, Seahawks. That writes itself. Russ going back to Seattle, where he spent his whole career leading up to this year. Let's see. Bengals at Titans. That was a divisional round game, so the Titans will be looking for revenge. Then we got Chiefs at Bengals. That was the AFC Championship game. The Bengals beat the Chiefs twice last year, so the Chiefs will be hungry to beat them. And I think one that's not getting talked about enough is Tom Brady going to Santa Clara back home to play the 49ers. And we remember he said, y'all chose that mofo over me. And he was upset that they chose – we think he was talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. So I know Tom will be motivated, and that's a very good 49ers defense. So they'll be giving Tom fits. So that's going to be an underrated revenge game. So what are some revenge games you're looking forward to?
Not to mention, Tom grew up a 49ers fan.
Oh, yeah. So
Wanted to play for the 49ers, watching guys like Joe Montana and Steve Young lead them to Super Bowls. He wanted to play for San Francisco. So, yeah, he'll love that opportunity. One that I don't think is getting talked about near enough is over in Week 10. Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys go to Green Bay. Mike McCarthy won Super Bowl 45 with the Packers, had a lot of really good seasons, but as Packers seasons have done the last handful of years, a lot ended in disappointment outside of when they did beat the Steelers in that Super Bowl 45. So Cowboys at Green Bay, Mike McCarthy going back. I think that is one that's not getting talked about enough. I'll tell you another one that involves a coach. Now, listen, this game's not going to be seen by many people. This game's not going to be cared about by many people. But Doug Peterson is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And in week 4, they go to Philadelphia. I thought personally Doug Peterson got a raw deal being fired as the Eagles head coach. The Eagles had never won a Super Bowl and hadn't really come close very often. And then all of a sudden, Doug Peterson comes in and he wins a Super Bowl very early in his tenure there. And then they fire him after a lot of things went off the rails. Not everything was his fault. That's a week 4 game. Again, the Jaguars aren't very good. They're probably going to be better than they were last year just because they got rid of that idiot Urban Meyer, but they're still not going to be very good. And the Eagles, as we've talked about, have gotten better in the offseason. So I don't know. It's not going to get much intrigue, and it probably isn't that. It's not going to be that competitive of a game. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here. If you were to tell me to pick that game now, I'd tell you Eagles by anywhere between 12 and 20 points. But still, that's going to mean a lot to Doug Peterson to go back to Philadelphia. And then very first game of the year. Feel like through the wild offseason, we forgot Von Miller is now with the Bills.
Whew, that's going to be scary.
He wins a Super Bowl with the Rams. Now he's with the Bills. And his first game as a member of the Buffalo team is at the Rams in the stadium, their home stadium, and the stadium they won the Super Bowl in. That's really fascinating. I don't know how much revenge it is because, he wasn't there long, and it's not like they split up, on bad terms. He won a Super Bowl with them, but still, that's very intriguing. And then the one that's going to get a lot of traction is the one we just talked about on the Monday night slate, Washington, Philadelphia. Carson Wentz going back to Philadelphia.
Oh, that's going to be brutal.
I would not want to be in Philadelphia that night. I just really wouldn't.
Ooh. They're going to say some awful things there that night.
Yeah, probably going to be throwing batteries on the field. Oh, yeah.
Another one that I don't think is getting talked about enough is also Steelers at Dolphins. The Dolphins, they fired Brian Flores. It was a lot of controversy around that. The players really loved him, and now he's a defensive assistant for the Steelers. So I know the Steelers will want to go to Miami and, play well for him. So we have some great revenge games. Deshaun Watson, he's going to Houston. I don't know how competitive that game is going to be, but that's another one. So we're going to have some great revenge games. I feel like you're going to be a little harsh here on this next segment.
Why would I ever do that? Why? Why do you say such a thing? I'm a nice person.
But our second to last topic is going to be what will the Cowboys record be this year?
Why would you expect negative things to come out of my mouth?
I just know you're not the biggest Cowboy fan. That's why.
Now who said
that? Just in our interactions in our group chat, I know you know how it gets when we talk about the Cowboys. But I went with 10-7. I didn't feel comfortable going any higher than that. We have some really tough games. The NFL schedule makers hate us because we start the season at home, which is not really a home advantage for us. we start off with the Bucks, Tom Brady, who we've never beaten in my lifetime, and then we get the runner-up from the Super Bowl last year, the Bengals, and I like. I think it was undisputed. We're saying it's not really a home field advantage because it's all luxury. It's not like Lambeau Field or somewhere like that. Everybody wants to come and play in our stadium because it's the Palace. It's Jerry's Palace.
Who was that? Was that Bayless spewing that? Was that Skip?
No, I think it was Shannon Sharp saying that it's not really a home field advantage because we really
I know the poor old Cowboys. I know
we normally don't do good at home.
Those poor Cowboys. They have no home field advantage.
I mean, really, we do better on the road for whatever reason the last couple of years. And speaking of the road, we have some tough road games this year. We got to go to the defending Super Bowl champs, the Rams, in Week 5. Then in Week 6, you brought it up earlier. We get a nice measuring stick against the Eagles. I know people are hyping them up and saying they're going to be really good this year. I think we'll have to see how good Jalen Hurts is going to be this year to see how good they're going to be. I think that's really going to be the biggest determining factor of how far they go is how good he can be and if he can make the big-time throws. And then you brought it up earlier, Week 10, going to the Packers, Mike McCarthy going back. Things really fell off the rails at the end for him. And Aaron Rodgers has caused me a lot of heartbreak and PTSD in my lifetime. I don't really like that, man. He's broken my heart a lot in the playoffs. Oh man!
All right.
So
10-7 is what you said, yes?
Yes, and we played the Vikings, and we beat them the last 2 times in Minnesota, so they'll be hungry. And then we got the Colts. That's not going to be an easy game, and then we end the season with the Titans. So we got some really tough games, and we need to win a couple of these to show that we're a legit contender. So we'll have to see. What do you think the Cowboys' record's going to be?
Well, by the way, do you think 10-7 wins the division?
I'm really not sure because I looked at the Eagles' schedule and it looks like they have a Pee-wee schedule to start the season. If I'm being honest, they get the Jags, they get the Lions. I mean, I can see them starting the season out really hot, and then they kind of cooling off at the end of that schedule because it's backloaded. It's like the Cowboys' schedule a couple of years ago when we had it easy and then it got hard at the end.
Well, everybody wants to talk about the Cowboys. All of the 4-letter networks want to talk about the Cowboys, this team that hasn't won a Super Bowl in almost 30 years. But I'll play the game. I think they start 1-6.
Wow.
Jesus. They lose to Tampa. They lose to Cincinnati. They lose at the Giants. They'll beat Washington, the team that we're now calling the Commanders. But then they'll lose to the Rams. They'll lose at the Eagles. And then they're going to lose to Detroit as well. Mark my words, Detroit is better this year. Believe me, Detroit is going to be a much better team. So I think they start 1-6.
I don't see that, but Jerry may burn the house down if they start 1-6.
Yeah, well, and then they'll beat the Bears because the Bears are just pitiful. We know they're not beating the Packers.
Well, we've seen them play the Packers really well in Green Bay, but we can't beat them at home. So we'll see.
And then I'm kind of with you. They'll beat the Vikings, and then they'll beat the Giants on Thanksgiving because you're not going to get swept by the Giants. The Colts game is 50-50. You better beat Houston because Houston is. And then you better do the same thing to Jacksonville. You better not lose to them. The second game against Philadelphia is tough, and then you're not finishing overly easy at Tennessee and then at Washington.
Ooh, yeah.
I got to I think the Cowboys are going 6-11.
I remember you predicted that. I think it was 6-10 a couple of years ago.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, this Dallas team, they've got a lot to work out. The offensive line is not as dominant as it was a couple of years ago. They're getting older. They don't have the same pieces there. At some point, Dak Prescott's going to have to prove something. We know Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback, but there's a very fine line in the NFL between really good and great, and he hasn't shown that yet. You might disagree with that, but
I
he
don't.
hasn't shown that yet when he's really needed to. I mean, sure, Dak Prescott, and this is no disrespect. I do say that this is no disrespect. He can be great against Washington. He can be great against Chicago. He can be great against Minnesota and a primetime game against Philadelphia or the Giants. But he's going to have to show it eventually against Buccaneers, Rams, Bengals, Packers. Can he do that? I mean, what do you think? I mean, what are they going to be like on the offensive end? Because it's not the same guys. He's not throwing the ball to the same guys he was last year, right?
No, I'm a little concerned about that. Michael Gallup, who we paid almost $18 million, he's probably not going to be ready to start the year because he got surgery in February. So, how we replace Amari Cooper, which I still don't understand, why we traded him away for a bag of Lay's chips. That's really why we traded him for. We could have got something better for. I think we got a 5th round and a 6th round pick for him. I'm like, are you kidding me? Um, and like you said, the offensive line, I think that's why we haven't really, taken the next step is because they haven't been able to stay healthy. And ever since Travis Frederick retired, we haven't had a center who was dominant like he was. And when we were at our best was when Zeke was running the ball, and we had one of the top 5 offensive lines. So can we shore up the left guard and the center position? I think that's going to be huge because in that Tampa game, we had a lot of penalties at very awful times, and you can't do that against good teams. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if we can, like you said, beat some of these good teams. And I want Dak to, prove he's one of the top quarterbacks when we play the Bucks, the Bengals. So these first 2 games, Dak can really, make a statement. We're at home. It's going to be 90,000. It's going to be rocking. And then you go to the Packers, and I think this is week 10, so it's probably going to be cold in Green Bay. Can you go up there and win a big game like this? You got the Colts, you got the Titans, so I want Dak to win some of these big-time games and, prove that he can do it because, we saw him do it against the Patriots, last year. He had made some big-time throws. He started off a little rocky, but he delivered. And I know the Patriots probably, weren't the best last year, but that was a big time win. And we hadn't won in New England in forever. So that was big to win in New England. I think the first time since '93. Who's going to be our number 1 receiver? Dak and CD, they were really, clicking at certain parts of the season, but like it was never consistent. Like CD, he would have a big game, and then, for 3 or 4 5-game stretch, he'd be having 3 or 4 catches for 50 yards. And, how is he going to deal with, getting each team's best corner, So I'm really intrigued to see what the offense is going to be like. The defense, are they going to be taking the ball away like they were last year? We lose Randy Gregory. Jerry tried to pull a fast one on him, and he ended up in Denver. So we'll have to see if Sam Williams, who we drafted to replace Randy Gregory. I heard he's doing great in camp so far. I'm really intrigued to see how we're going to look. We lost a lot, and I think we did an okay job replacing everything we lost, but we lost a lot. So I'm intrigued to see how good this Cowboys team can be for sure.
Anytime I think about the NFC East, through the offseason and through the draft, I just see Dallas and Philadelphia, and they're slowly getting closer together. And is Philadelphia slowly pulling ahead of Dallas? They pulled off a really great deal to get A.J. Brown in the draft. And you've got A.J. Brown on one side. You've got Devontae. Well, listen, those are 2 great receivers, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. You got the tight ends. They ran the ball better than most teams all year last year. So I don't know. I think there's a slow shift, but it's happening in the NFC East. And the Giants are going to be better. I don't know how much better. They've got to be better. You mentioned Brian Dable taking over. They did, like I said earlier, a great job with those 2 first-round draft picks. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is Dallas, to me, has the best quarterback in the division. I know other people may think, other quarterbacks in the division are better, but I think,
because Jalen Hurts is going to have to prove himself this year too,
yes,
because he's got a terrific team around him. So can Jalen Hurts prove himself?
because I think they got some draft picks early in next year's draft. If he's not the answer, they can move some things around and get a quarterback next year.
Yeah.
So we shall see. And to close out the show today, I thought we would get our early Super Bowl predictions. I know it's early, but for me, I think Buffalo and the Rams, they start the season, and I think they're going to end the season. And I want to send my prayers out to Buffalo. Another senseless killing. The gun violence has to stop. So I think they're going to be motivated. I think they're going to win for Buffalo. And that would be awesome if they could win the Super Bowl for Buffalo after, they just had that senseless killing the other day. Just really tragic and sad. So my thoughts and prayers are with the community in Buffalo. And I think that'd be awesome if they could get to the Super Bowl and win it for their community after what happened Saturday. I think that would be dope.
Yeah, I echo your thoughts on that. Yeah, right now, according to the guys in Vegas, the Bills are the favorite to win the Super Bowl at 7-1. Hard to really argue against that. I mean, we know what happened in the playoff game against Kansas City. Should have won that game. And then, who knows what happened. They would have hosted Cincinnati. Who knows what happens in that game, but they're the favorites right now. You got a really packed field at the top on the Vegas for what Vegas is showing as the odds. You've got Buffalo 7-1, Tampa's 8-1, Kansas City's 9-1. Then you kind of got Green Bay, LA, San Francisco, and the Chargers and the Broncos, for that matter, on top of each other. I think I'm with you. I like the Bills to get to the Super Bowl. And I think they play Tampa Bay.
That could be interesting, yeah.
I was on the Buccaneers making the Super Bowl all year last year, and I truly thought they were the best team in the NFC, and we know what you get with Tom Brady. But I thought they were the best team in the NFC until all these injuries started happening. And I mean, the injuries just compounded on that team to the point where we seen what was happening in the playoff games, the playoff game against the Rams. They were getting blown out of their building. Then all of a sudden, Tom Brady does the impossible, leads them back to tie the game. If it were to go to overtime, Tampa would have won. But then
For sure.
But then the Todd Bowles defense just gave up two plays that you just cannot give up to the best receiver in football, Cooper Kupp. All of that being said, I like Buffalo and Tampa Bay to play in the Super Bowl. That means it's Brady versus the Bills. And you know how that goes. Brady wins.
He owns the Bills. I think he only lost them like 3 times during his time in it, which is just crazy. Well, Buffalo wasn't very good while he was there.
Yeah.
Except for when, at the tail end when they got Josh Allen. But, yeah, that's just crazy to dominate a team like that.
And then Buccaneers beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady says, "See ya, I'm out." And then he goes to the Fox booth next year.
That deal he got for Fox. Good Lord.
Making more at Fox than he did during his entire playing career, which, by the way, it would be serendipitous if Brady were to win the Super Bowl, because as you can see behind you, it would be at State Farm Stadium. He's played 2 Super Bowls there. The first was, of course, the loss to the Giants when they were undefeated.
Yeah, I remember
but the second was the comeback win and the goal line stand on Marshawn Lynch when they beat Seattle. So it would be a second Super Bowl win in Arizona. And yeah, I think if they were to win the Super Bowl, Tom would probably, he has to want to go out on top.
For sure.
Win the Super Bowl at age, what in the world is he?
45, I think.
win the Super Bowl at age 45 and say, I'll see you next season on Fox.
Yes, and I think the AFC, I think it's going to be a gauntlet to get
Oh,
to.
the AFC is ridiculous.
Man, it's going to be the AFC North, all those teams loaded. Then you got the AFC West. That's 8 teams right there. So it's going to be, whew, I can't wait. The playoffs in the AFC is going to be ridiculous. So whoever makes it out of that, I think they're going to earn it.
Yeah.
The NFC is a little weaker, with Russell Wilson leaving to go to the AFC, the harder conference, which is crazy, but he was done in Seattle. I think he was fed up with Pete Carroll. But I could see the Bucs if their defense could kind of get back to that Super Bowl run, defense where they were really dominant up front.
Just stay healthy.
Yeah, and they're back in. If they're back, they're back in. If they could stay healthy, because they were just bringing guys off the street, to fill their secondary. So I think the biggest key for the Bucs is to stay healthy this year. And like you said, if Tom Brady does win the Super Bowl in this stadium behind me, where he's made 2 Super Bowl appearances before, I definitely could see him riding off into the sunset as well. I mean, he's got almost half a bill waiting on him. So I know he's probably not in a rush to get to the booth, but I think if he does win the Super Bowl, I think he'll want to, end it on top, like you said, for sure.
I can't wait to hear him in the booth. He's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
it's going to be amazing. And I have an idea that I want to throw out to everybody. When he does get in the booth, Fox doesn't get many Patriot games because they have the NFC package. But I want something worked out where his first game with Fox is in New England, and he'll have to do a production meeting with Bill Belichick.
Ooh, that would be interesting. That'd probably be a dry meeting right there.
I want that televised. Can we get that televised?
Ooh. I wonder what Bill Belichick is like in those meetings. I know it's probably interesting.
Probably not very helpful to the broadcasters.
It's like
he doesn't seem like someone that will give away his game plan.
Ooh, it's like pulling teeth probably with him. But thank you for joining the show, Matthew. This is really fun. Breaking down this loaded NFL schedule. We're going to have some great games every week. And week 1 is going to be loaded. A lot of great games. So I can't wait for football season. We're 4 months away 3 months away from the preseason. I know teams really have stopped playing their starters in the preseason. So the season really doesn't start until September, because teams are just taking the preseason as a joke now. So 3 months away, but really the season starts in September when everybody's gonna be playing their guys. So looking forward to it, and thank you again for joining the show, bro.
Absolutely, thank you, and can't wait to do it again and enjoy some hockey while we wait for football.
Yes, go Canes. I hope they can bring the championship back to North Carolina. That'd be awesome. That would
be amazing. We don't exactly get many professional sports championship moments in this state.
No, we don't. So that would be awesome. PNC, it was rocking Saturday for Game 7. So they played the Rangers, I think, starting Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think all the games are going to be on ESPN. So I'm hoping they can keep doing well. And like you said, bring a championship to North Carolina, because we don't get to see many of them.
Raise that Stanley Cup.
Because the Panthers aren't going to win one soon, anytime soon. Or the Hornets. So
no.
We're going to have to depend on them.
No, I don't think that's happening.
I don't either.